Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all. My name is Jacqueline, and I will be your moderator for today's thematic webinar. It is a great pleasure to be given this opportunity by our IURC Asia Australasia team leader, Mr. Pablo Gandara, to moderate the session on circular city hubs, improving thriving, livable, resilient urban centers. Before we begin, we kindly request for the participants to mute their microphones and take note of the Slido poll details that you see on the screen. You have two options today. On the right, you can use your mobile phones and scan the QR code, which you see on the screen, or alternatively, you can also enter slido.com and the Slido code IURC 2021 to manually access it. For those of you who have pressing questions, please use the chat function you see at the bottom of your screen to pose your questions. It would be even more effective if you could actually state clearly if your question is directed to a specific expert or the panel of experts as a whole. We will have 3 Slido polls with you today, and we hope that you will adopt a participatory approach to contribute your inputs interactively. For those of you who are curious why we are featuring a digital clock today, this is to assist our experts to keep time without me having to interrupt them during their presentation. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Mr. Francesco Flores, the Head of Trade and Economic Relations at the European Union delegation to Malaysia, to deliver his opening remarks to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline, and good afternoon for those of you who are in the same time zone as I am in Malaysia. Good morning to Finland, and even good night to Australia. It is my pleasure to welcome you at today's webinar. I don't want to take time for the speakers to speak about important things, so I will keep my remarks very short. I would like to thank all participants for taking the time to be with us today, in particular the Mayor of Seberang Perai, YB Dato Sri Rosali, and the other city leaders and circular economy experts. As Jacqueline said, I'm the Trade Counselor of the European Union delegation to Malaysia. I'm not myself an expert in circular economy, so I will also listen very, I will be very interested in listening what we discussed today. I'm here just because the European Union is funding this IURC program, which promotes city-to-city collaborations. It covers 86 cities in Asia, Australasia, and Europe. Since October last year, since October this year, the URC has organized already 4 seminars with hundreds of participants, aiming at identifying specific pilot areas for joint actions between cities. And today it is the 5th thematic webinar, as Jacqueline said, on circular city hubs, improving thriving, livable, resilient urban centers. I don't want to spoil the surprise. You will hear about challenges in key sectors that cities are facing, and we hope to achieve collaboration among cities on research and innovation, knowledge transfer and exchange of best practice, and why not, exploring investments and business opportunities. And this is also the economic element of the discussions. Cooperation in these areas is key, and the cities, both in the EU and elsewhere, are bearing the cost of the challenges, the environmental challenges, and are at the forefront of the crisis. There is this urgent need to strengthen the economic, environmental, and social resilience of the city. And COVID is putting us even more to the test, but also giving the opportunities to rethink and to rebuild. So I hope that this webinar will strengthen cooperation between EU and non-EU cities. Being a virtual event, at least it does not contribute to the carbon footprint because we are not traveling to meet physically, although we would like to. And I wish you all a productive and fruitful discussion, and I give back the floor to you. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you very much. From the EU delegation to Malaysia, I'm honored to kickstart our thematic webinar with our first IURC city from Malaysia. It gives me great pleasure to invite our city leader, Yang Berbahagia, Datuk Senior Haji Razali bin Haji Muhammad, Mayor of Seberang Perai, Malaysia. Seberang Perai is the first city in Malaysia to have launched their circular economy roadmap in September 2020. The Honorable Mayor will kindly share key updates with the other IURC cities online and the stakeholders.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening to everyone. It is an honor and privilege for me to be here in this virtual conference organized by IURC program of the European Union on secular city hubs, improving, thriving, livable, resilient urban center. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, pandemic COVID-19 forced city mayors and urban dwellers to come up with urban solutions that will make life better and more prepared for the crisis. We are aspiring to create a greener spaces in the urban areas, improve connectivity, reduce congestion, be more adaptive and smarter with technology. MBSP has set a guiding principle which spells city for all and making it a people-centric organization. The process of community engagement allowed marginalized groups be given equal chance to participate and be a partnership for the goal. As such, human capital from within city council and community will play a significant role for the successful implementation of all programs such as circular economy and digital economy action plan. Seberang Perai has documented clear strategic direction. Seberang Perai aspiring to be a city that resilient, inclusive, green, competitive, and technology-driven smart city. Seberang Perai City is committed to ensure success implementation of 17 SDGs and make it a reality to local people. The outcome from this vision that can be expected by the people is the transformation of Seberang Perai into a smart, sustainable city by year 2030 that is carbon neutral. In order to achieve Seberang Perai community vision, a corporate target has been set, making Seberang Perai a low carbon city by 2022 through 50% reduction of the carbon emission, from 8 ton carbon dioxide equivalent to 4 ton carbon dioxide equivalent, and reduction of waste generation by 50% from 1.6 kilo per person per day to 0.8 kilo per person per day. In addition, Seberang Perai is also striving towards becoming a carbon neutral city by 2030 and become a zero carbon city by 2050. MBSP is also committed and pledged to work with other cities and other countries in the world in addressing climate change and to keep global warming 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial level. Second is enabling business and industrial sector to reduce carbon emission. Seberang Perai City Council embraced informal learning to build up strong human capital for the implementation of all city policies and programs. At Seberang Perai, dissemination of projects and policies were done in 3 different ways. Dissemination for awareness, dissemination for understanding, and dissemination for action. Seberang Perai City Council moving towards circular economy and digital economy that improve the efficiency of urban and rural operation. Subraprai Circular Economy Roadmap for waste sector has identified 8 KRAs to be implemented before 2030. Each KRA have KPIs to measure success. Subraprai Municipal Waste Data reveal renewable resources can be better managed to increase economic potentiality and efficiency. Let me go through a few statistical data that was collected in Subraprai. The opportunities from the data, we can see the opportunities that green waste generation was 45,000 per ton per annum, and as it is now only 4,850 or 10%, or to be exact 10.78% only recycle, whereas the industrial waste 1.035 million, only 682,836 was recycled. This is quite impressive, 65.95% recycle. And domestic waste still far behind. There are many opportunities that can be explored from recycling of the domestic waste. Out of 321,641, 75,871 tons was recycled, which represent about 23.59%. Estimated plastic waste 58,860 per ton per annum, 48,246 was recycled, equal to 81.97%. From data, it revealed that green waste and domestic waste has a very high potential to increase the recycling and explore on circular economy in 2022 until 2030. Total waste recycling rate in Subraprai is 55.91%, which is the highest in my country, in Malaysia. As such, there are still room for improvement so that we can circular economy can recycle, can focus on the material, especially green waste and domestic waste, so that we can divert all waste from going to the landfill. Subraprai, as such, the circular economy initiative offer 5 opportunities which will benefit the people of Subraprai as well as the peoples in my country and globally. First, make better use of finite resources. Second opportunity is to reduce emission. The third opportunity is to protect human health and biodiversity. The fourth opportunity is boost the economy. And finally, and also most important, is to create more job, better job for the people of Subraprai. Circular economy can help Subraprai to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, while the spillover activities will create domino effects in carbon reduction. To drive impacts and action, it is essential to provide stakeholders with knowledge, incentive, and alternative model. This process can start from the very beginning of the production of the product life cycle with smart product design and production processes to help save resources, avoid inefficient waste management, and create new business opportunities. Policymakers, company, and civil society need to work together to accelerate the transition to a circular economy, and Subraprai has been taken an integrated approach to encourage waste separation focusing on 4 factors that underpin success: economic incentive, customized facilities, engaging communication, and legal enforcement. Subrang circular economy on Subrang circular economy roadmap focus on the waste to protein, waste to compost, and waste to energy. That will be the immediate focus that we are going to do it in 2022, so that landfill reliance will be reduced to 40%. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the outcome from program that has been implemented, Subrang recycling rate increased to 55.9% in year 2020, the highest in Malaysia. Domestic waste was reduced from 263,989 tons in 2019 to 245,770 tons in 2020. An average 15,000 trees were planted annually. Per capita carbon emission was reduced to 6.3 ton carbon dioxide equivalent in 2020 compared to 8 ton carbon dioxide equivalent, a benchmark in 2016. A reduction of 21.62% or 4.32% annually. Reduction of carbon emission per capita during MCO was 8.2% in 2020 compared to 2019. Cumulative reduction in carbon emission from 2016 to 2020 was 14.25 million ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. We have localizing the SDGs and making the aspiration of SDGs become real to communities, household, and individual. Let me browse through some of the photo taken during the program in Subrang. MBSP has a strong collaboration with universities in Malaysia, and we have set up the Green Education Center in Padang Cempedak, Subrang, North Subrang, with the collaboration of 3 parties: City Council, Education University of Sultan Idris, and Urbanes, a private company. The center is used to develop human capital for the community so that they can embrace the technology of green technology and also the new technology to be included in their urban farming and balcony farming as well as backyard farming. Hydroponics technology was used, as well as the fertigation technology was widely used and practiced, trained in the Padang Cempedak Green Education Center. Subrang City Council has also came out a collaboration with University of Science Malaysia for the mini circular manufacturing kiosk, which is very handy. It's quite affordable to the communities, around 19,900 ringgit Malaysia. The purpose is for the community to understand how to use technology in the mini circular manufacturing. The kiosk is easy to be handled and can be implemented by the residents, used for shredding the plastic bottle and make it into a input for the another products, especially for the printing of souvenirs and by using the graphics computer technology. Community gardening has been focused in 2020 to be enlarged to include all the residents not only the NGOs, but to include all the residents. As it is now, there are 30 communities has been trained, 11 in North District, 12 in Central District, and 7 in the Southern District, to be a mentor for the local residents. Serampai initiative to develop urban farming was practiced in mayor office, mayor residence, as a leadership, for example, so that people can appreciate, so that mayor himself, me, can understand what are the difficulties will be faced by the community on the urban farming, as well as backyard farming, and also balcony farming. We organize the competition, and that program is to promote urban farming and as well as sustainable community farming and neighborhood farming, so that at the end we can get a clean, beautiful backyard in Serampai. With the support of the private sector, Serampai has also organizing community growth market and upcycle carnival. The product from their gardens, from their backyard gardening, as well as balcony gardening, can be marketed in the growth community market and upcycle carnival. MBSP has came out with a very creative parks and upcycle park. The first in the country, we managed to get record in the Malaysia Book of Record, the first upcycle park in the country. This is to encourage people to make use of all the used material that can be found in the bins, and it creatively came out as a new product. We call it upcycle. The upcycle park, the name by itself explain that all the components decorated in the park are upcycle material. It's actually material that was thrown away by the community, and we creatively came up with something that can be used and be displayed, and it was appreciated by the local people. I would like to introduce a few places if participants would like to come for a study tour in Serampai. You are welcome. There are few places, can be a showcase, Auto City Juru, Taman Bagan Lalang, Pematang Nibong Village, Convent School, and a factory ESH resources recycling facility. Auto City Juru has a few advantages and showcase. It is a one-stop center for auto, food, entertainment, banking, shopping, green products, organic farm product. The sustainable practice on green environment without using chemical or toxic method. The food waste was composted for organic farming. Kitchen waste water was treated for landscape. Green toilet system with zero waste, and segregation on solid waste, cardboard, a plastic bottle, can, glass bottle for recycling. Collection of construction and renovation waste for upcycling project, for arts and sculpture, for decoration. Collection of e-waste for extraction of precious materials such as metal, gold, etc. In Taman Bagan Lalang, this is a community project. A zero waste community was established. They managed to turn waste to wealth. The component of the activity are community recycling, i.e. setting up segregation station, eco market, they do it online and offline also, organic farming, biocompost and liquid fertilizer, and also aquaculture. Another segment of the community are villages in Pematang Nebong. The first zero waste community was established in Pematang Nebong, the first in the country, the first in Malaysia. The component of their activity are composting by villages, recycling center, black soldier fly to digest, to compost kitchen waste, and came up with a fertilizer, very natural, and organic farming from the fertilizer that was produced by black soldier flies. And we also have a showcase in school, a convent school in Butterworth. A green school example, they have managed to get this green school award a few times. The component of the activities are the segregation of food waste for compost. One student, one eco bricks, very smart approach. My green promise, upcycle corner, my green wall, where they planted the vertical, they are doing the vertical farming, and environmental quiz for the students. And finally, recycling facilities, ESH resources. They are doing integrated recycling management company, a plastic waste management process, and waste paper management processes. Here are some of the photo of the upcycle product produced by community. It is marketable and being used by the city council as a souvenir for the visitors, and also it was marketed online as well as it was marketed in every program internationally and locally. So the upcycle product, just to enlighten the audience, all material come from waste bin in Seberang Perai. It's not a new material, but it's a used material, and creatively came up with something that can be marketed and beautifully decorated in the office as well as in the premises. With that, I would like to say thank you to all the audience for your time. Thank you to the organizer for giving me the opportunities to be here in this program. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mayor. We hope the audience are inspired with your vision and insights, and that they are eager to collaborate with the Seberang Perai City to realize your circular economy roadmap to achieve the targets and upcoming action plans collectively. From Malaysia, we now move on to our circular economy expert from our IURC city of Melbourne. She is currently co-leading the One Planet Network's Sustainable Buildings and Construction Program, the United Nations 10-year framework programs on sustainable consumption and production. She is also a member of the Chartered Institute of Building, the Green Star Associate, and the International Education Association of Australia. Usha has served as an expert panel member and a panel judge at Victorian, national, and international scales. She has also served as a board member for various NGOs and industry educational bodies. She has published a total of over 150 publications, including research and consulting reports. It gives me great pleasure to invite Professor Dr. Usha Renega to share her experience, knowledge, and insights with us on the built environment. Prof, the screen is now yours.
Thanks very much, Jacqueline. And I hope you can see my screen. I'll just put it on to Can you see that okay?
Yes, Prof.
Right. Thanks very much again, Jacqueline, and good evening from Australia to all of you. It's a balmy evening here, and we're all getting ready for our slowdown over the summer period. What I'm going to be presenting to you today is some work that I've done as part of co-lead of the Sustainable Buildings and Construction Program. But just to give you a little bit of context, I work at RMIT University as professor in the School of Property Construction and Project Management, but I also lead the ICP, which is a nexus of circular economy, climate change, and clean energy. And of course, we are very happy to partner through our brand, the Victorian Circular Activator, with you today. So just a little bit about the work that we do through the 10YFP or the One Planet network. We're one of 6 programs that sits in the One Planet network. The board and the One Planet network is governed by what is called as a 10-year framework of programs board, and we are responsible for our KPIs are set under Sustainable Development Goal 12. As I said, because we are a part of one program among 6 programs, the Sustainable Buildings and Construction Program, as the name suggests, is responsible for looking at buildings and construction, but we work very closely with some of our other sister programs, for instance, the Sustainable Procurement Program, particularly around consulting and procurement practices that are led by governments. And a very good example that has been provided today by the mayor of Seberang Perai City. We are a multi-stakeholder partnership for sustainable development, and our focus is on sustainable consumption and production practices. And we, although responsible under SDG 12, we also cross-cut and work with other SDGs, particularly SDG 8 on decent work and economic growth. Our program has got a number of partners and we're constantly growing. We've also got a number of different focal points. And again, the number of focal points currently sitting at over 130 countries is also in the process of growing, and we're increasing strength by strength, year by year. So a little bit about why do we need to think about the built environment? And again, lifting off from what the mayor said earlier today, clearly when you're thinking about sustainability and you think about the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, all these goals are quite interconnected. And when you think particularly of the built environment and think about where you're today, you might be sitting in an office or you might be working from home, but wherever you are, you're part of the built environment. And while you may or may not be sitting in a fairly new building, even if you're sitting in an old building, think about how these buildings are currently being powered. So you've got your laptop or your computer in front of you. Think about all the appliances that are around you that are being used. So there's use of electricity. Think about the lighting in your office, or if you're sitting in a tropical area, you might indeed be sitting in an air-conditioned space. So globally, the built environment has got a very high resource use, and as a result of this resource use, there's also attendant environmental impact. So the built environment consumes about 40% of global raw materials. And not only do we use materials in the process of manufacturing and the construction of buildings, so materials manufactured for making buildings, but also buildings once built need to be operated. And I gave you the example of the things that you're currently using in your office, but equally you'll be using things at home. Think about the things you use in your kitchen. Think about your refrigerator. Think about your hairdryer. And so there's ongoing impacts in buildings when buildings are being operated as well. And typically, the operation energy of buildings sits around 80% compared to 20% as the capital cost of building buildings. But of course, as we continue to use buildings, we're also eating, cooking in our spaces. So, and we're using photocopy paper, so we're also generating waste. Some of this waste is solid waste, some of this waste are emissions as a result of using various activities within buildings. And so therefore, there's also an impact that's associated, greenhouse gas emissions and an associated impact. And of course, the use of water in buildings through various facilities that we use within buildings. But the building and construction industry is also a litmus test of often how GDPs are performing. So when there's a recession, often it's the buildings and construction industry that is affected first. And so globally, the GDP that's associated with the built environment is around 6%. But typically countries use about or employ about 10% of the global workforce in buildings and construction. And certainly in the developed economies, for instance, in Australia, it's about 9%. And in the European Union, it's about 10%. But we also need to consider, and given that we've got quite a number of countries I could follow in the chat, not just in the Asian region, but also from the European region. We also have a number of informal workers that work in the buildings and construction industry, and that's an important thing to take into consideration. Furthermore, we also need to think about what is this industry going to be like in 50 or 100 years? And this is where, again, the role of materials becomes quite important. If we continue with our current trends, the projected use of materials for the built environment is expected to double by 2060. And some of the common building materials, again, if we use materials that we're currently using now, which is cement, sand, gravel, and limestone, steel, these are all materials that will be on an upward trend into the future. So this is where we need to start thinking from a circular perspective. So what does circular economy actually mean? It means that we need to think about ways in which we can design out waste, but it's not downcycling. We need to start thinking about upcycling or retaining value or increasing the value of materials. But ultimately, what we're trying to do is to ensure that we do not draw on the use of virgin resources and we allow the planet to regenerate. Why is this important? As I said, we've got countries that are rapidly growing. We've got populations that are rapidly growing, and they are putting a pressure on the need for services, whether it might be buildings, whether it might be infrastructure, whether it might be housing. And again, if we continue, then the OECD is predicting that concrete alone will contribute to 12% of greenhouse gas emissions by 2060. The focus, as I said before, is going to be in the rapidly growing regions of the world, Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And what are the advantages if we moved to a system that was recognizing the importance of circular economy? If we considered circular economy, not only will we eliminate the use of virgin materials, but we will also eliminate or reduce attendant environmental impact, but it gives us a huge opportunity for supporting local economies and local jobs. So I'm going to take you very quickly through the work that I've been doing for the One Planet Network. And we have been working on circular built environment at a number of different scales, but largely from a global scale. We started our work looking at the first work that we did for the World Circular Economy Forum, where we looked at the collective impact for sustainable consumption in the circular economy in 2017. And since then, the work that we have been doing has grown in the space. We also took part in the circular economy online sessions last year and this year, where we focused on some of the work that's going on in the Australian region. Last year in 2020, we launched 7 regional reports: Europe, North America, Oceania, Middle East, Africa, Asia, and Latin America. And we brought all this together with some conclusions and recommendations on what might we start thinking about if we are to bring in circular thinking into the buildings and construction sector. And along with that, we also deployed a survey, and so far we've got over 180 responses. And when you think about the Global South, roughly half of those responses are from the Global South. So I'm going to very quickly talk about what are our global recommendations. There were 10 recommendations. So the first thing that we have said as part of our 10 recommendations is to start thinking about moving away from our linear ways of thinking, which is really what is predominant in the buildings and construction industry today. So not thinking about the take, make, and waste economy, but more into how do we start creating circular loops into whether it is a production of materials. So for instance, thinking about the use of bio-based materials, thinking about bringing in nature-based solutions into the design, and thinking about how might we engage more with local artisans, local culture, local technologies, and local materials. The second thing that we feel is really critical is the importance of benchmarking, monitoring, and reporting. And we're suggesting to use the Sustainable Development Goals because the SDGs came into effect on the 1st of January 2016 and is going to stay with us until the end of 2030. So we've got enough in there to allow us to benchmark now and into the near future. As I said, also the importance of life cycle considerations, because while buildings use a lot of energy for the process of buildings and construction, we also need to start thinking about the operational side of buildings and end of life of buildings. So we don't think about demolition of building materials, but we start thinking about how buildings might be deconstructed and how that deconstruction in turn can inform the processes of design. So thinking about the whole life cycle. Building materials, as I've said, we need to start thinking about building materials that are not going to be as energy intensive in production, and how do we start the reuse and recycling and upcycling processes in the use of buildings and building materials. Procurement processes, and again, governments can play an important role in the process of procurement, and we saw some very good examples that was outlined by the mayor. And so if there is support from a top-down perspective or from a policy perspective, supporting green procurement practices, then it just makes it that much more easier for the building industry to be very easily come on board. We also now need to start thinking about not just the mitigation. So there's been a lot of focus on the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, but we also need to now start thinking about adaptation and resilience. So we need to start thinking about some of the things that are sitting under SDG 13 around climate action. So again, from a buildings and construction perspective, we need to make sure that buildings that are built are not, or bridges that are built are not going to be damaged as a result of flood and need to be built again. So we need to start thinking about some resilience measures that we can put into the design and the operation of buildings and infrastructure. The use of locally adapted solutions, I've already given some examples of that. We need to start thinking also about new business models, and some of the new types of business models are moving away from an ownership-based business model into the use of product as a service model. So how can we ensure that that upfront cost that goes into owning a product is actually less at the initial stages, but we also get the service that is required, but it also has an opportunity to create new jobs. We also need to start thinking about education, and this fits squarely under SDG 4 on quality education. We need to start thinking about how are we going to think about graduates now and in the future that are going to be not just prepared to think about technical prowess in their work, but also to start thinking about the impact of their work from a climate perspective. So also thinking about the social repercussions of the work that they do. And finally, there has been a lot talked about in the COP26 about the importance of collaboration and particularly green financing arrangements, so that some of the developing countries are able to kickstart some new practices around the use of cleaner technologies that might be very prohibitive for them to start thinking about using right now. So just very quickly on the results of the global survey that we took. This global survey was taken at 2 levels. One was at the level of the goals, the Sustainable Development Goals, and then the other one was at indicator level. Now, at the Sustainable Development Goals, as you can see, given the implementation mechanism of our program, clearly Sustainable Development Goal 12 was the top ranking, followed by SDG 11. Obviously, buildings and construction and cities go hand in hand, because buildings are part of cities and cities are made up of buildings. So the whole built environment scenario is critical. But we also need to think about the role of climate change, and particularly developing countries need to start thinking about climate change as well as sustainable industrialization. And interestingly enough, at a goal level, SDG 7 on energy, SDG 6 on water, SDG 8 on economic growth are also equally important. But it's really interesting to see how this changes when you look at the indicator level. We also asked our experts to rank what they felt were the core indicators of circular built environment, and what were some of the secondary indicators of circular built environment. So when you think about the core indicators, what came up was sitting under goal 8 and under 12, the importance of material footprint, the importance of recycling rates. And again, this was identified by the mayor, and the importance of the use of local materials. You can see here what are the 10 secondary indicators. And these secondary indicators cut across water, energy, on industry and innovation, on sustainable cities and communities, again, sustainable consumption and production on SDG 12, as well as the importance of climate action under SDG 13. Given that I'm running out of time, I'm just going to very quickly talk about some of the work that we have done, because I think this is of relevance to the crowd today. When this year we, at COP26, we released highlights and case studies in the Global South across the Asian, African, and Latin American region. We looked specifically at countries in Africa, and the countries in Africa are mentioned, the countries in Asia are mentioned, and the countries in Latin America are mentioned. So at this launch, we looked at not just the case studies that were presented, but we also started looking at how might we work with governments in specific countries on looking at replication and scaling up of some of the work that we have done. How do we start looking at this work that we have done and this research that is guiding us to the next steps on making this part of the implementation at a country level, or whether we start looking at customizing at projects level. And particularly, there's a huge opportunity with infrastructure projects, because infrastructure projects extend over a number of years and cost a huge amount of money. But what has also been an interesting exercise is that traditionally, the learnings has been transferred from a north to south. So we're learning from developed countries into developing countries. But what this exercise has shown us is that we could equally learn from some of the practices from the south to the north, or from the developing countries to the developed countries, as well as exchange of information across the developing countries, the south to south learning. I just want to finish up with this case study, which is looking specifically at one in Asia, and again in the context of the presentation by the mayor earlier today on construction and demolition waste. See, here is an example of how construction and demolition waste is being reused, and this is a case study of a recycling plant in a city called Surat to the west of India. India generates an estimated 150 million tons of construction and demolition waste every year. And the official recycling rate is quite less, about 6,500 tons a day, or just about 1%. Now, supported by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change in 2016, there was a decision made as to how might the construction and demolition waste be reused back into the system. And there was a public-private partnership set up to reprocess 300 tons per day of building and construction waste. And based on a circular model, which not only reuses and recycles building materials, but also recycles water, about 96% recovery of high quality sand, aggregates and soil has been demonstrated, to the extent that this is now being replicated across 10 cities in India. Again, what this is showing is that there is a capacity to reduce 508 tons of carbon dioxide emissions, which is equivalent to burning 250,000 kilograms of coal every year. It will save 9,100 gigajoules of energy, enough to power 3,000 Indian homes for an entire year. So this exercise has demonstrated that you can still provide new businesses. So these opportunities exist. You just have to find the right mix of stakeholders that are able to support you. It supports green jobs and skills. And importantly, these recycled materials are made into building and construction materials such as tiles, blocks, and pavers, and are sold back into the marketplace about 30% less compared to a standard material in the marketplace. I'll still encourage you, especially for those of you who are in the Asian region, we would love to hear from you. And this is a link to the survey, which I'm sure that Jacqueline will make available later on to you. And I do apologize once again for the internet issues, but I'm available. I'll still be connected by phone to have discussions with you through a Q&A session. Over to you, Jacqueline. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. That was highly appreciated. And to take the opportunity right now to actually share, I'm very grateful to the people who have already started with the Slido poll. And Prof, as you can see, there has been 54% of the audience who got the answer correct. By 2035, the potential for global energy savings attributed to the built environment is indeed 40%. So thank you very much to our audience who took time to participate in this poll. If you feel like you want to engage with us interactively, please feel free to answer the following next two polls as well. So in the chat box, I'll be sharing the survey link from the One Planet SBC Circular Built Environment State of Play that was featured in Prof's last slide. So from listening to our built environment expert from Melbourne, we now move on to our IURC city expert in Bandung, Indonesia. Mr. Ganja Setia Pribadi is working for the Communication and Information Technology Division of the Bandung City Government. At a young age and part of the Bandung Smart City team since 2017, he has managed to bring Bandung City to achieve Urban Development Awards in digitization at the national and global level. He was awarded top 3 of Future Leader at the 2020 Government Official Award of the Ministry of Administrative and Bureaucratic Reform of Indonesia. One of his remarkable achievements is Bandami Food Sharing, a digital platform for sharing and donating surplus food as a solution to reduction of urban food waste. It was also showcased as part of the Bilan Pack Awards of 2020. Without further ado, Mr. Ganja Setia Pribadi, the screen is now yours. There's a lot of background noise on your side, so hopefully quiet it down and you may start your presentation.
Okay, thank you. Hello, let me introduce myself. My name is Ganjar. I am founder of Badami ID. I work in Bandung Smart City, Communication and Informatic Department, City Government of Bandung, Indonesia. First of all, I apologize for not being able to fully attend this event because I joined another event at the same time. But I'm very happy to be invited here and to able to tell about the innovation of Badami food sharing. Okay, next. Badami is the first food sharing platform in Bandung. We connecting for you to share with those in need, helping culinary small medium enterprise, which combine the concept of crowdfunding system with food market donation. Previously, Badami itself was a discussion forum for the Bandung Smart City Forum, where we discuss solution and solve various city problems. One of the crucial problem in the city of Bandung is accumulation of waste. From the data we obtained, it was recorded that there were 1,600 tons of waste per day. 60% is food waste. Initially, we want to build a food waste management system. However, after the future research, the main problem of food waste comes from household waste due to people habit of leaving food. So the initial goal of build a food waste management system turned into the concept of sharing food. The first concept of food sharing was done by inviting restaurant and hotel to share their surplus food with others. However, eligibility and health constraints are very important during the COVID-19 pandemic. We are very worried if leftover food from restaurant and hotel turn out to be unfit for consumption. That's why we built a crowdfunding system to raise donation money to buy fresh food.
Mudah bagi sebagian kalangan, seringkali sulit bagi yang lain. Melimpah untuk sementara orang, tak ada yang dapat dimakan bagi piring yang lain. Ketika karena banyak hal, memaksa sebagian orang tak mampu mencukupi kebutuhan pangannya secara layak, maka kerawanan pangan pun terjadi. Ini memicu kerawanan sosial, juga berdampak pada kesehatan individu dan warga masyarakat secara komunal. Haruskah hal ini terus-menerus terjadi?
Stop, hentikan kondisi ini. Anda belum terlambat untuk berkontribusi dengan cara ikut berbagi. Jadilah bagian dari pemberi donasi dengan mengikuti program Badami. Apa dan siapa Badami? Bagaimana menjadi pemberi donasi dan ikut berbagi melalui aplikasi Badami? Badami adalah sebuah aplikasi yang siap menjadi jembatan bagi Anda untuk berbagi. Badami adalah aplikasi nirlaba yang dikelola secara profesional dengan mengedepankan asas jujur, amanah, maslahah. Bagaimana cara menggunakan aplikasi Badami? Simak penjelasan berikut ini. Atau melalui cara yang lain sebagai berikut. Cara lainnya, di lokasi pelaksanaan off-air Badami, Anda akan menemukan QR Code ini. Scan, maka proses donasi dapat Anda lakukan dengan mudah. Usai masuk ke aplikasi Badami, tinggal satu langkah lagi, Anda akan menjadi pendonasi. Ikuti langkah berikut ini. Melalui aplikasi Badami, uang donasi akan dibelanjakan kepada sejumlah UMKM kuliner di Kota Bandung. Makanan inilah yang akan didistribusikan kepada para penerima donasi. Jadi, Anda para pemberi donasi tidak hanya memberi andil dalam berbagi makanan siap saji, namun secara bersamaan membantu tumbuh kembangnya UMKM kuliner di Kota Bandung. UMKM ini adalah mitra Badami. Jumlahnya akan bertambah seiring pertumbuhan jumlah para pemberi donasi. Semoga. Aksi kita adalah masa depan kita. Donasi Anda adalah senyum mereka.
Okay, next. Badami is trying to build community solidarity during this pandemic, where many people need help, but many also want to offer help. We know Indonesia is the most generous country. This is our opportunity. With Badami, we want to help small medium enterprise survive, promote, and campaign their product to be distributed to everyone. The process flow is very easy. Donor can choose direct small medium enterprise product to donate, or donor can also choose a campaign for give donation to another people. This is a picture of application food market donation. Okay, next. We have three features in this application: point of sales, inventory stock, and campaign crowdfunding. We can access smartfood.badami.id. Next. In Badami, we have three digital programs. First is Bulgogi. The second is Bancakan. Bancakan, Bandung Cari Makan, is Bandung Find Food is culinary promotion place, product review, tips and trick, recipe. We publish the content in Instagram and in YouTube. The last, Badami Food Sharing is a part of growing the economic and food security of Bandung City with solidarity among citizens, help small medium enterprise, and be a part of Zero Food Waste Awareness campaign. We have tagline: we buy, we share, our action and our future. Okay, next. This is a volunteer of Badami Food Heroes. We sharing the food every week. Next. The main event, donation and food sharing on the road, is one of our way to introduce Badami food sharing to the public. The goals of this program are increase the number of users, increase the number of donation, and help small medium enterprise significantly, especially street vendor. After launching, Badami food sharing with food rescue has saved 1,300 kilogram or 2,700 box of fresh food to be eaten and not waste. Next. This is a video of cooking. Bulgogi is one of Badami program to embrace small medium enterprise as a forum for sharing knowledge and experience. We have online and offline cooking class, coffee class with our partner.
By the judges.
Okay,
I
next.
can't see your screen yet.
Next, the slide. This is a video of cooking class. You can enjoy the video. Okay, next. This is innovation is far from perfect and needs continuous improvement. I wish a lot of support for Badami going forward, especially to support our researchers to continue with social movement, build a community character for mutual solidarity, saving food and sharing happiness. We buy, we share. Our action are our future. This is our contact. Thank you very much. Stay safe and healthy. Okay.
Thank you very much, Ganjar, for sharing how important it is to identify and share effective measures, especially at the community and youth levels, taking into account, existing global, regional, and domestic action plans and frameworks on regenerative food systems, and how digitization during the COVID-19 pandemic can promote mutually beneficial collaboration. From IURC Indonesia, a very warm welcome to Dr. Wijan Simachaya, the current president of the Thai Environment Institute and the Secretary General of Thailand Business Council for Sustainable Development. He is also the chairman of the circular economy under the biocircular green economy model. Dr. Wijan is leading TEI, one of the world's top think tanks by the University of Pennsylvania for 7 consecutive years and works with 4 key ministries. He was also a representative of the Ministry of various UN sub-regional and ASEAN Tree forums. Under the ASEAN framework, he has played an important role to develop the ASEAN Haze-Free Roadmap and Marine Plastic Debris Combating Action Plan in ASEAN region. It is very good to see you again since my last trip to Bangkok in 2019, Dr. Wijan, and we are very happy you could take time from your busy schedule to join us online today. The screen is now yours, Dr. Wijan.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm going to talk especially for the circular economy under biocircular green economy. Our experience in Thailand. It is a great pleasure for me to join a webinar on circular city hub, improving tripping livable, resilient and urban center today, especially to share our Thai context on the biocircular green economy in urban agenda. My talk will cover what is the BCG model, how we can apply circular economy in the urban context, and the big rock project in our country. Thailand, the government also strong promote a new economic model known as BCG. YB stand for bioeconomy, C stand for circular economy, and G stand for green economy. This is a new national agenda of the government. BCG economic model is implementing as a post-COVID-19 in the principle of sufficient economy philosophy of the late King Ramanai, and support sustainable development goal and commitment for especially from COP26 on Paris Agreement on climate action. The major area cover food security, health security, energy security, employment security, and sustainable national resources and environment. Next, I will move to circular economy. The country will move from unstable linear economy to a more sustainable circular economy, which transfer from take, make, dispose of linear economy to make use return of circular economy model. the energy sources will also move from fossil-based to renewable sources as well. This slide show the development of circular economy approach from linear economy to recycle economy, and then circular economy similar to approach of many countries. Circular economy context including the reduce environmental footprint, especially for the green product, minimizing of waste, reducing resource dependency, and generate increased income at the same time. Why we need a circular economy? The country is facing up resource scarcity with overconsumption, severity of pollution, and also emission of greenhouse gases. A circular economy will benefit and support sustainable development goal, Paris Agreement commitment of the country, maximizing resource efficiency, and also reducing pollution as well as minimizing environmental impact. This will create a new economic opportunity in line with national policy as well. The driving mechanism of circular economy in BCG model we call three C's. C1 is the crossing rule, which the goal of the C1 is the reduction of 1/4 amount of current natural resources consumption. C2 is creating a new economic goal, approximately 1% GDP increasing within 10 years. And C3 is the combating climate change and pollution target sector, including the plastic waste, agriculture and food industry, especially for the food waste, food loss, similar to the implementation of the Indonesia, and the construction sector, which consume a lot of natural resources. For the plastic waste, we are implementing the closed loop system that support national roadmap on plastic waste management. The implementation with all stakeholder participation, we set the milestone of recycle targets such as PET, PE, PP plastic at 100% by 2030. This also will impact the reduction of energy consumption, resource consumption, greenhouse gas emission, reduction of pollution problem, and also income generation. The circular economy application support the roadmap on the plastic waste management and associate with the action plan, national action plan and ASEAN action plan on combating marine plastic debris. That the plan aim to reduce plastic marine debris by at least 50% by 2027, especially the reduction of the single-use plastic and replacing environmental friendly product, and the recycling of the target single-use plastic by applying the circular economy of 100% by 2027. For BCG, different organizations, there are three committee BCG model, especially the top committee chaired by our Prime Minister, and the different committee chaired by Minister of Higher Education, Science, Research and Innovation. Under that, there have 11 subcommittee related to BCG target. I myself also serve as a chairman of Circular economy subcommittee. For the Big Rock project, the Circular Economy Action Plan for the year 2022 to year 2027 under BCG already approved by the BCG committee. This plan will implement by operating guideline covering investment opportunity, market creation, technology, innovation development, sharing platform, and technology innovation development mechanism, regulation development as well. And last but not least, circular economy citizen awareness, also very important. The Big Rock project cover the plastic waste, cover the food waste, food loss, cover the construction sector. This is the area. We also develop indicator for implementing the circular economy in the country. The first one is reduce natural resources consumption. The second one is the create investment opportunity. The third one is reduce greenhouse gas emission at the same time. Public-private engagement is very important for Thailand. We developed we call PPP plastic with by the Federal of Thai Industry and Thailand Business Council for Sustainable Development tried to help the government to tackle with the plastic pollution. The component of PPP plastic include more than 40 organizations from association, organization, government sector, private sector, international organization, and also educational institution. How we apply to a circular economy in the city model? There are three circular economy model implemented by PP plastic. The first one is a Pong-Tơi model. That's a business model. The second one is Rayong model that we apply for the whole population level. And the last one is we call Dap Point, that we collect the plastic to upcycling process. For the Pong-Tơi model is a city business model from base management using circular economy approach. For different sub model are department store, hotel, hospital, and office building. This also apply circular economy. In the implementation last year, we can reduce plastic waste at least almost more than 50%. For the project, we collect the plastic, especially for the film packaging plastic, and then we donate to the marine life conservation program. This is example. For Rayong, is the implement for the whole province. Is we call Rayong less waste. That there are total of 40 cities also include in the Rayong model, try to apply 3R, reduce, reuse, recycle, and plastic. Also our target. That's this is the project that we are implementing in Rayong. Our target is the percentage reduction of plastic waste to landfill, and the number of the municipality engagement. That the number is increasing year by year. That this is our project. And for the unrecycled plastic, we developed we call plastic to road construction. Also under the investigation of the impact assessment, especially environmental impact assessment. and we also use other, for example, artificial wood, blip, a bin, and so on. This is the example that how we utilize plastic in various types of plastic. The driving mechanism of BCG in circular economy in the city model in Thailand are including the co-benefit of key projects and development the pilot model such as plastic waste I have mentioned earlier. Develop circular economy platform, I think is very important. With some community can be a resort to the other activity as well. And the public-private engagement is very important in Thailand. We have PPP plastic that implement along with the government agency and build up the circular economy society and citizen also very important, and how we can create and promote the circular economy market in Thailand. We also reform, especially some regulation that get stuck with the implementation of the circular economy. We are in the process of the improvement, and the public green procurement also very important, how we can implement the circular economy in the country. Now in the process of development circular economy product that going to certify and launch the project very soon. Here is the example of Thailand, how we implement circular economy in the city model. With that, I thank you for your attention.
ขอบคุณค่ะ Dr. Vijan Simachaya. Thank you so much for sharing with us how Thailand Big Rocks project is applying the BCG model in tackling urban plastic waste management and advancing the circular economy. Thank you also for highlighting the PPP model and how it really facilitates to encourage the research on environmentally sustainable waste disposal and management, and how such partnerships can also support research on plastic value chain pathways. From Southeast Asia, Australia, we now move on to our last city experts. Sorry, I just stopped the timer. We will now move on to our last city expert from the city of Turku in Finland. Ms. Nina Rushka currently works in the Climate and Environmental Policy Unit in the city of Turku as a project manager in 2 projects, the Circular Turkey project and the IKLU project, which targets the business clusters in the Turku area to support the city's carbon neutrality goals. She is also a co-leader tasked with developing business models for smart city solutions in the Horizon 2020 project Response, focusing on integrated solutions for energy, positive and resilient neighborhoods and cities. She has a diverse background and expertise in biodiversity, geology, molecular systematics, and project management. Thank you very much, Nina, for sharing with us your insights today, and the screen is now yours.
Thank you, Jacqueline. So yes, greetings from the Turku. It's now a midday here, and my name was Nina Ruska, as Jacqueline just presented, and I'm here to tell you about the Circular Turku, what we are doing at the moment, and where we are heading. So I work in the City of Turku's Climate and Environmental Policy team, and my team is in the central administration of the city. And so next slide, please. let's look at Turku for a while. Not sure if any one of you has visited us. If not yet, then please welcome. We are rather far north of the Europe, but in the southern part of the Finland. And this is the oldest town of Finland, and we have close to 200,000 residents, and of course the region as a whole is a larger area. And we have a lot of students in the city, as we have 2 universities, 4 universities of applied sciences as well. And Turku is known for the culture and also the maritime and bio and diagnostics industries. They are very strong in our region and in the city. The structure of the city compared to other Finnish cities is rather dense. Also, of course, the capital of Finland is a dense area, but this is one thing that probably is makes things different to another city in Finland. Also, our nature is one of the most diverse in Finland, and probably it's because we locate by the sea and near the archipelago, which creates many different habitats for species. Turku has an ambitious climate goal, as we wish to become carbon neutral by 2029 and resource-wise by latest 2014. What does it mean to be resource-wise? We see it in a way that we don't produce emissions, we don't produce waste, and we use our natural resources in a sustainable way. Also taking care of the biodiversity and social equity, strengthening them. So in Turku, the circular economy has been well underway for a rather long time, and in the end of the presentation, I will give one example of this. In a very vast collaboration with the regional stakeholders and circular economy actors, universities, professionals, and the city, we have drawn a circular Turku roadmap to speed up the transition towards circular Turku. This roadmap was published just in November. It's so very new. And the main partners for the city in the circular Turku has been ICLEI and the Finnish Innovation Fund, Sitra, and Finland's Futures Research Center in the University of Turku, and the Regional Expert Organization for Sustainable Development, Bologna. And in the roadmap, the circular economy and climate plan are linked because we want to target also the scope 3 emissions from the production and consumption. And in this collaboration with the regional stakeholders for at least 3 years, we have chosen now to the roadmap the 5 priority topics, and these are on the right part of the slides: the food and nutrient cycles and energy systems, buildings and construction, transport and logistics, and water systems. And these were chosen because we see that they produce the greatest amount of emissions in the region, and also they are the ones that we have the greatest potential to move forward very quickly. There is a lot going on in many of these. Then in the roadmap, we also have 6 cross-cutting enablers of circular economy, which are circular economy businesses and ecosystems. We have to make them stronger. Also, we need to have the resource and material cycles to be very efficient, industrial scaled. Also, skill development and education of circular economy. This is really important because otherwise, if we don't produce more competence in the area, if we don't teach circular economy in our universities, we won't have a workforce for the future. Also, the solutions for the residents, circular economy solutions, such as the public services, of course, like local transportation, public transportation, and loaning and sharing. These are the things that we have to really keep on working with. One of the cross-cutting enablers we see is the resource-wise and 1.5 degree lifestyle. And we have an ongoing campaign for this at the moment. And this picture on the left is one of the campaign pictures we have. And we have many city subsidiary companies and other organizations which are very close to the city. They are taking part in the campaign, and we are sharing knowledge for the residents at what kind of services we already have. What can you use to lead a 1.5 degree lifestyle resource wisely? For example, one very clear example is the library, and we only don't loan books there. We also share tools and some hobby gear. And also the city as a driver for the circular economy. That is one of the cross-cutting enablers. So about the city's role, we have also defined the different sort of roles that we have in the steering our area for the transition. So one is the planner. Of course, the city is planning the urban area and the infrastructure, and this can be done in a way that supports resource wisdom and zero waste. For example, the logistics. If you take care of that in a way that you can put the construction material easily in another, for example, the demolition construction material to a new buildings, then you can ease that very efficiently. Also, the nature-based solutions are one which is the urban planning has that in their hands. Of course, the cities are very efficient in an economic way, because we are a public buyer that has quite a lot of money in all our purchases, public procurements. And we in Turku we have the new strategy for the public procurements, and we are now setting the criteria in a way that they take circular economy principles into account. Also, the regulation is important, and the city is an enabler that can help and engage different actors to come to do things together, like, for example, in those circular economy business parks, and we facilitate the collaboration. So now we go to the example I mentioned. This has to do with the water, food, and energy nexus, and it's a wastewater treatment plant that has been built a couple of years ago, and it serves 13 municipalities and treats a lot of water. So the most of the solids and the nutrients are taken away from the water, and this has made a very remarkable improvement in the ecological condition of the archipelago sea, which is in not a very good condition, but now it's improving. And also it contributes to the climate adaptation and mitigation. So the heat pump in this wastewater management plant collects 10 times more energy than it's needed to run it. And this heat energy is sold out to warm the houses in the winter and cool them in the summer. And it provides the 10% of Turku area's district heat, so it's rather remarkable. And it can be classified as an energy plant which is generating carbon-free energy with high efficiency. And not only it provides us heat, but it also provides us biogas, because the sludge from the treatment plant is taken to a nearby biogas plant, which is just being built a couple of years ago also, and the nutrients will be recovered and used for the humus production, for example, for green areas building, or maybe even for the food production. So it's serving not only for the heating and electricity, but also for the transport, because the biogas can be turned into LNG and used in the transportation and farming. So, and the whole cycle, including the logistics, is carbon neutral. So everything is taken into account. And as I mentioned in the beginning, this plant is serving for how many was it? Many municipalities in the area. So it's not only Turku. Forgot already. 13 municipalities. Sorry. And this is very typical in our region, that we do work in a vast collaboration with the other municipalities also in our area. For example, our local municipality waste management area is serving, and it's actually owned by the municipalities nearby. It's 17 owners, and so there's more potential when we do it together, and that's probably the key message I want to share here, that when you efficiently do collaboration for a long time and convene and facilitate the collaboration, then more things can be achieved than only as a city itself. That's everything from me. Thank you for listening, and over to you, Jacqueline.
Thank you very much, Nina, for the sharing of insights with us today, and how Turku's circular economy roadmap is integrating climate plans and biodiversity protection to advance circular solutions in the city of Turku. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to invite all our city and circular economy experts to come back to the virtual stage and turn on their videos for a short interactive discussion. I know we are 5 minutes behind, but maybe we can have a 5 minutes short discussion, because I received a couple of questions from the audience. So while the speakers go back on the virtual stage with us, I would just like to share with you that I will be launching the final 2 Slido polls, ladies and gentlemen. So if you could kindly, log in and give us your inputs, for the second poll, which is this. I am going to leave it on for another 30 seconds. And then thereafter, I will move on and keep the third poll active so that you can contribute your inputs as well. So the third poll would be actually this. We will be distributing an Excel sheet for the circular economic thematic clusters, and we would like to invite the national stakeholders online with us. If you would like more information, please provide your email below so that we can send more information to you. And with that, I'm very happy to start the interactive discussion. Maybe I could start with Dr. Vijan first. There were 2 questions from the audience, but I'll ask the first one. The first question was, how has the reduction of use of plastic bags in Thailand, launched in early 2021, developing? I think this person would like to know the status, and if you happen to have any insights, could you kindly share?
Actually, for the plastic, not banning, but we ask for the cooperation voluntary in Thailand. Even our plastic roadmap, no legal binding policy. in the for the plastic bag, we ask the corporation, especially for the major super store in the country, that right now we no longer use the plastic bag. However, they have some question raised also during the COVID-19 pandemic. We also facing with the increasing of plastic waste, especially from the food delivery. The plastic waste in Bangkok metropolitan itself is increasing more than 50%, but the percentage of recycle is lower than normal because the aware of the disease. That's a problem, but we can stop using the plastic bag in supermarket, but in fish market we still have some way to go. We dealing with that situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Vijay. Prof. Dr. Usha, there are different municipalities and city councils online with us today from different IURC cities. From what you have shared with us thus far, can you share with us one example of what has been some locally adapted solutions in relation to better management of construction and demolition waste by municipalities, and how have they been monitoring and reporting their on-the-ground efforts? Maybe you could share if this is done digitally on an open source platform, or have they relied on some specific guidelines? And if there is a link you can share with the audience to read further.
I'd like to just share with you, I mean, I shared with you the example of the way construction and demolition waste is treated in India. But I'd also like to share with you an example of Upcycle Africa, which I think is a very novel solution. So in Upcycle Africa, what they've done is they have used plastic, drinkable plastic bottles. They have filled this. So firstly, the collectors go and pick up the waste, and then they sort the waste. So it becomes a source of employment. Informal it might be, but it still becomes a source of employment for youth and women. These plastic bottles, if they're in a good condition, are actually compacted with earth, and they're used for infill materials in walls. So what this is suggesting to me is that there is no end to creativity and innovation. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you don't need to have whiz-bang digital solutions. Yes, digitalization can bring a lot of new ways of sharing information, for collecting information, but often you can't move from a country that is really struggling into a very digital solution straight away. So there are a number of different steps, and it needs to be scaffolded. So my approach is one step at a time. We can't all move to, move quickly into capacity building and digitalization. And even, where I am today, I'm working at the university in the central business district, and I had a problem with the internet. So, and for digitalization, we have to rely on the internet. So these things happen. So my suggestion is one step at a time. But what we really need, and I think this is demonstrated very well by Nina, is we need a plan. We need a plan of action. We need to engage with people across a plan of action. And collaboration in this plan of action is very, very critical, because you can't just focus on plastics or buildings and construction or any one sector, food, because it's all interrelated. If you're focusing on plastics is there in buildings and construction. It's there in things that we use on a daily basis. So think about holistic and systemic solutions. So I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof. Usha. Over to you, Nina. I understand that Turku is the oldest city in Finland to date. As a project manager at a city level, what are the critical success factors to ensure the implementation process by the various public-private partnerships will be a successful one in the city of Turku now leading up to your 800th anniversary in 2029?
Thank you for the question, and it's a very good question, and we often also struggle with the answer ourselves. But well, I think it comes to the fact that the city has to have the steering role in this whole thing. And for example, we are the organization that actually has the site for all the region. I mean, what happens in the schooling system, education? What do we have new competence coming in our region to fulfill the need for the circular economy businesses to thrive in the future? And what are the companies and areas which are moving forward and which need more kick from our side? And that's, I think it comes to the city's role as a steering. And I had one slide about that, the different roles, and we have to keep them all very strongly in our hands. That's the key. And the good thing in Turku is that things has really been rolling on for a long time already, and the new ecosystems, business ecosystems, are raising up independently also. So it's not just that we have to pull it through, but yeah, that's from my point.
Okay, thank you so much, Nina. It's really good to see you, Ganja. Thanks for joining us back online. So the question I have for you was, thank you very much for sharing how the Badami food sharing platform has helped people to purchase food from food suppliers like the micro, small, and medium enterprises, and how they can share that with the people in need. Has there been any feedback sessions carried out with these micro SMEs after the launch of the sharing platform during the COVID-19 pandemic? Are you able to share some findings from the consultations, and also if the municipalities are helping with this process?
Okay, thank you, Jacob. The process of law is very easy. Donor can choose direct small medium enterprise product to donate, or donor can also choose the food sharing campaign that we provide to help others with easy of payment using less cash payment, GoPay and Shopify. Was there a feedback session with micro, small, and medium enterprise after the launch of the sharing platform during the COVID pandemic? We conduct a webinar and workshop to share the experience small medium enterprise who have participated in food sharing apps program. So as the provide inspiration, motivation, tips, and tricks during the pandemic, can you share the findings of the consultation with them? Decrease sales turnover, low off, and shop closed. Of course, donation can be one way to help them survive these times, and the city government help with the process. We collaboration with the government to organize an event, distribute free voucher to stimulus people buying appetite.
Thank you very much, Ganja. I don't think we have much time on the clock anymore, ladies and gentlemen, but we hope that our city and circular economy experts have convinced you that there is a pressing need for a collective and coordinated vision and long-term strategy to address the outlined city's challenges today, and we must do so collaboratively. To recognize the importance of the IURC pilot projects, we will be circulating an Excel sheet for the circular economy cluster, inviting IURC cities and their stakeholders to propose themselves to collaborate with the IURC city implementers. If you didn't have time to complete the Slido poll, you can email me directly. I now would like to invite our team leader, Mr. Pablo Gandara, to deliver some closing remarks. And I would like to welcome him back to the virtual stage.
Thank you very much, Jacqueline. Yeah, our biggest gratitude goes, of course, in the first line to the presenters. I think it has been a very, very interesting webinar with a very wide range of issues, as mentioned at the very beginning by Francesco, reaching from waste management towards built environment, construction solutions, plastics, as we saw, of course, and at the very end, also a very good, I think, presentation by the colleague from Turku with regards to the overall approach to achieving circularity, the real role of the very clear roles of municipalities on how to get to circularity. So thank you very, very much to those over there in the different countries here in Thailand, but also in Australia. Usha, thank you very much for joining us so late down under. Highly appreciated. And same counts, of course, for the colleagues from Thailand, as well as from Bandung in Indonesia and Nina Turku. I have to say also that it was very good that we got the support from the mayor of Seberang Perai at the very beginning. In his video, he made quite clear interesting solutions and showed even some spots that will be visited probably by a delegation from Portuguese colleagues going to Seberang Perai already mid-March. So this, in a way, it's an open invitation for those representatives of the pilot cities to start to follow up with us with regard to the study visits that will hopefully take place as soon as possible. Notwithstanding the COVID contingency, of course. Next steps, I think, and if I may just say a final comment with regard to the contents, I mean, Dr. Wijaran, I think very interesting roadmap you showed about with this with the big rock projects in Thailand. Quite interesting approach, generally speaking, the BGE. So I look very much forward to the BGC, to meeting with you soon in Bangkok. Now, the next steps, I think it has been very clearly stated by Jacqueline that we will circulate this Excel sheet. This is for the pilot cities representatives. The idea is there to try to identify very concrete actions and to say, okay, you know, this is a project where we would like to work together. I see that today in this meeting we had over 100 participants, most of them from the IURC pilot cities. This is quite encouraging. So a smooth and swift follow-up from our side is required. We will do so. And also we will invite you to our next webinar, which will take place on the 18th of January. This is going to deal with urban food systems. So especially I think for Ganjar in Bandung, quite interesting for what you're implementing down there, a regional champion on circular economy systems with regard to food. We will upload the information, the program on the website as soon as possible. And as always, please just don't hesitate to register and to share there, to spread the word among your colleagues. Thank you very much for this. And having said this, I would send it back to Jacqueline and wish you, of course, to those in different places, a Merry Christmas and a nice end of the year. Thank you very, very much for this great support. And let's look forward to cooperating in 2022. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pablo, and everyone for your kind attention and for really staying up with us until now. I have really enjoyed moderating this session with our experts from Asia, from Australasia and Europe, and with all of you online with us. Thank you so much for joining us, and see you next year for the 18th of January, 6th thematic webinar organized by my colleague, Ms. Dini Laraswati, the IURC country coordinator in Indonesia. We wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a safe and auspicious New Year 2022. Thank you very much, everyone.